In the heart of a raging storm, a wild stallion stood fearless, blocking an ambulance on a life-or-death mission. But this was no accident. It was a silent plea that would change two souls forever. What happened next? Buckle up, because this story will tug at your heartstrings like never before. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss an emotional tale like this. Drop a comment below. Tell us where you're watching from and what you think about unconditional love. Now, let's begin. The wind howled like a wounded beast, tearing through the night sky. Rain lashed against the ambulance windows, blurring the world outside into a watery nightmare. Inside, Sarah gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. Beside her, Jake stared ahead, his jaw tight. The storm mirrored the tempest in their hearts. Unspoken fears, buried guilt. Sarah had lost her brother in a car crash years ago. The guilt of not saving him haunted her, driving her to become an EMT, not for glory, but for redemption. Jake, her quiet partner, sensed her pain but stayed silent. Tonight, the storm wasn't just outside, it was within them. Then he appeared, a massive black stallion, standing tall in the middle of the road. His eyes burned like embers in the darkness, unflinching against the storm's fury. The ambulance screeched to a halt. Why now? Why here? Sarah's breath caught. The stallion didn't move, didn't bolt. He called out, a sound that cut through the rain like a knife. It wasn't a cry of fear, but a plea. Sarah's heart pounded. Something primal pulled her toward him. Without thinking, she stepped out into the storm. The rain soaked her instantly, but she barely felt it. The stallion's gaze locked onto hers, and in that moment, she knew this wasn't just about saving a horse. It was about saving herself. Sarah inched closer, the stallion's breath warm against her skin. Then she saw it, a tiny foal, trembling in the mud beside him. The stallion wasn't blocking the road out of stubbornness. He was protecting his child. Tears mixed with rain on Sarah's face. The foal's ribs showed. Its breaths were shallow. The stallion nudged it gently, then looked back at Sarah. His eyes screamed what his voice couldn't. Help us. Jake radioed for backup, but the roads were flooded. They had to act now. With shaking hands, Sarah wrapped the foal in a blanket and carried it to the ambulance. The stallion followed, his hooves splashing through the torrent. But as they sped toward the animal sanctuary, Sarah realized something deeper. This stallion, this father, had risked everything, not just for his foal, but for her. Days later, the storm passed. The foal, now named Hope, gambled across the green fields of Sunrise Sanctuary, strong and healthy. The stallion, Shadow, never left her side. Sarah visited every day. She'd sit by the fence, watching them run free. One evening, Shadow approached her. He nuzzled her hand, his eyes soft. Thank you, they seemed to say. But as Sarah turned to leave, Shadow did something unexpected. He reared up, kicking the air with a triumphant cry, then galloped back to Hope. Sarah smiled through tears. She'd come here to save them, but they'd saved her. Months later, Sarah stood at the sanctuary gates. Shadow and Hope were being released into the wild, where they belonged. Her heart ached. She wanted to keep them close, but love isn't about possession. It's about letting go. As Shadow disappeared into the horizon, Sarah whispered, "Be free." And in that moment, she was too. Moral of the story: true love isn't chains, it's wings. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is setting someone free, even if it breaks your heart. Shadow taught Sarah that redemption isn't just saving others, it's freeing yourself from the past.